I think that comes from where I started originally. I grew up in a one-room house for the longest time. My biggest dream in life when I was growing up was that I should be able to get a job that pays me 12 lakh rupees annually. And then I realized that at some point of time that you are only able to get to where you think you can get. I really think that when Musk finally colonizes Mars, I'm gonna be sending people between Earth and Mars. I'm gonna be like dreaming as big and as wild as it gets. And whatever someone might say, I'm gonna like, of course, course correct them and tell them how granularly I'm gonna kind of break this down into an executable plan and kind of really go out and crush.
Today we had Akshay Chaturvedi on the pod. Akshay is the founder and CEO of Leverage Edu, a fast-growing study abroad platform startup provides personalized mentorship and guidance for higher education and career. He's also a prolific angel investor. We covered wide range of topics starting from what is Leverage Edu, what is its current status and long-term vision. We unpack angel investing journey, what does he look for in a startup when investing, importance of founders' persistence, how has angel investing helped Akshay become a better founder himself, his advice for operator angels who are looking to start angel investing, his advice for founders on how to construct a cap table when raising the first round of funding, importance of staying physically and mentally fit, power of dreaming limitlessly, who is Akshay outside of work, and much more. Now I bring you Akshay.
All right, Akshay, so good to finally have you on the pod, man. It's been a while.
It's been a while. We've been planning this for a long while, and I'm glad it finally kind of came through today. Thank you for taking out the time, and thank you for making the trek. And before you welcome me, I should welcome you to Noida.
Yeah.
On behalf of our Honorable Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath ji.
Well, you're looking good.
Thank you, buddy. Inspired by you.
So Akshay, we've known each other for a while, and we met in person for the first time back in 2019.
Correct.
So that was your office in DevCall.
Correct.
And I think maybe the head count was 30, 40 or maybe around that.
We're about 50 or
Today I'm here. There are 2 floors, almost 1,100 employees. Just give a quick update. What is Leverage Edu is, and where are we today, and what's the longer vision you have for Leverage Edu?
I'll try to wrap that up in 1 minute, as brief as I can. But Leverage Edu evolved into Leverage, and the idea is to build a full stack solution for students who are looking to build global careers for themselves all across the world. And over the last few years, we have added more parts to the whole Leverage story. We've added Fly Finance, which you said hi to some of those folks a few minutes back, within which we are doing education loans, remittances. Now we're kind of trying to launch cards in there. We're doing Fly Homes. We're also helping the students with accommodation. This is primarily in the UK right now. Whereas Fly Finance is more global at the moment. It started about 2 years. And our latest one there is something called Desi Khana Abroad by Fly Homes, where we're also kind of doing subscription meals for students primarily in the UK at the moment. In fact, mostly in the London area at the moment. The idea always has been that how can we really build a successful life for the student who wants to become like a global citizen. If you see a tagline, it says building global citizens of tomorrow. So I think that tagline is something that we kind of revolve our lives around. And over the years, we've also realized that we need to really take more responsibility of this life that we're trying to build out. B, we will not be able to truly make the impact that we want to if we remain an online company only. So over the last 6 months, hence, we've kind of started to set up offline offices, mostly in tier 2, tier 3 India. And I think that's kind of started to spin off well. And that is pretty much it. We have been lucky to have a lot of supporters. We've been lucky to have a massive tribe of people that you saw over the last 30 minutes. And everybody's kind of come together to do great things at the current moment.
Yeah. So fast forward to today, Akshay. I think the last round was around 150 or 200 mil. You've supported around more than 30,000 students now. You're in many geographies. But man, when you initially started, who was the first believer outside of you as an investor who became or that was really helped you in a very meaningful way?
Bunch of people. The first person who I ever pitched leverage to was a professor of mine, Professor Anindya Ghosh. He's a director of NYU Stern, and he saw the first few designs of what the leverage app was. This is back in 2015, and because leverage in its infancy was a summer project at business, and we applied with this idea to a fellowship in the US called Draper U, and I ran with this idea for about 6 months before saying, let's pause, let's work with a couple of startups, and then let's kind of get back to this. And then once I started thinking about this as a company of sorts, that's when I had a lot of my friends come in and kind of push out money. I had Sada, who was CFO of Baba Job, where I used to work. He put in the first big check. And then we had a bunch of senior alums, bunch of professors. We had 5 professors who invested in the first round: UCLA, California State University, NYU. We had a bunch of known angels. We had Kashyap Devra, Alok Mittal, all names, the whole Gurgaon Delhi ecosystem of sorts. And we had Vishal Gondal, who continued to be one of my first mentors, and he sits on a board today, who was very helpful in not just in kind of giving out that first few you would say grains of advice, but also kind of scaling that advice as we move forward. And he just joined our board about 3 months. So I think been very, very fortunate to build this company alongside mentors, having a bunch of them. I think if I just start talking about that, that's fodder for about the next 30 minutes. But I think I would just say that been very fortunate to have these people help out, make the right intros, do strategic interventions, and open doors whenever we kind of said that, okay, this is what we need to kind of break through to be able to kind of move to the next level.
So while building leverage, you're all now. So now you're giving back, and you're giving back by supporting, your friends, people who worked with you, and others in the form of advice and capital. So Akshay, do you remember initially how did you get into angel investing, and what was the reason around it?
It's an interesting one because I've never had any purpose around angel investing. I never realized I was angel investing for quite a while. It was as simple as the fact that, and I think it kind of comes, maybe you kind of led me to this, the fact that I had a lot of people who had helped me, and then I just kind of felt the need to give back. And you realize that I think once you become a believer of startups, you realize that what better way to kind of put your capital than kind of invest it back into startups. And I think the first few companies were genuinely people who I admired, and I realized that I have a lot more to learn from them than I can kind of give. And hence those were the first few checks. And over time it became people who would have reached out to me, and I saw them like really push out that very mad persistence that I believe is very, very, I think it's the most important ingredient to become successful in the world of startups. And then a bunch of companies in the last few years have been people who grew up here in the leverage offices over the last few years, and who I really fancied, who I really learned from while working with them. And as it turned, entrepreneurs themselves, I was like more than happy to support them.
Yeah. And Akshay, recently, I think you tweeted, you wrote it on LinkedIn. I think you've done over 27.
But that's how we reconnected. Remember that now. You sent me that LinkedIn post.
Yeah. So you've done 27, 30 investments. You haven't gotten any, exit or any money back, but you said, I'm already, whatever I've invested, I've already gotten back. And there were a few reasons you mentioned, the GTM sessions with portfolio companies, or
you have a great memory.
The intros that you're making, Ratta.
Yes.
And introductions that you're making, and bunch others. Maybe let's double click on that, or let me put it this way. How has angel investing helped you become a better founder, operator yourself?
Okay, let me make this more interesting. Let me give you some anecdotal. Just yesterday, I spent the morning at this company called Skill in a Box. Very interesting company. I spent about an hour at their office, and I met their team, 35 people. And Samrat, who you see here, I got Samrat and a bunch of people in the room late at night, and I said that, hey, you know what? These guys are doing this specific stuff so well, and we need to learn from them. And that was around how they are using, we were speaking about this a while back, how they're using content as a loop to continuously reducing their CACs. And while we do this as well, while we talk about it in much granularity ourselves at Leverage, but there was stuff that they were doing which was more, if I can call it, Gen Alpha in some sense, the next step of Gen Z, which we were missing out on. And while those guys thought that I was there to kind of give them some advice, I think I learned more by spending time at their office. Or I have a German Shepherd son who I shared about. Like, I spent time at this place called Pet Fed about a few weeks back, and at Pet I ran into the stall of Super Tails, which is an interesting company backed also by DSG and a bunch of interesting investors. And the way Super Tails was doing the BTL was absolutely fantastic. They had pet parents come in and play a game, and they had to identify why, what are the right things for your dog, what are not the right things for your dog, and that then led to winning prizes and discovering that okay, this company also does these XYZ things, and then ensuring that you have a balloon that comes to you and that balloon was tied to your pet and then something had to unravel. So I had never seen any company do BTL with that level of thinking that I'm gonna really have them download my app right now, put an Instagram story right away, then these two things are gonna come to you, because every pet parent is really curious about okay, I want to protect my son or daughter from these XYZ diseases, or to ensure that their life is as long as it possibly can get. So they kind of got that insight right and ensured that they kind of designed the best possible BTL experience. Or another example is, let me try to remember. I had it in my mind when I was kind of saying that I will share anecdotal evidences. Stage, right? And I put money twice in two of the subsequent rounds, and the way they were able to crack / understand that different regions have different go-to-market strategies, and sometimes you got to be vernacular. Sometimes you got to also understand that different regions have different expectations in terms of product. For example, if one region, for example, if I'm using the same communication / copy all across the country or all across any region that I'm kind of selling to, then it might or might not make the same difference, because one specific region is saying that, hey, you know what, I already expect this basic level of feature, tell me something more. Or some region is saying that, you know what, I don't understand, this is too hi-fi for me, step one level down. So it's very important to kind of really break your segmentation into as many micro markets as you can. And I think the way Sage is building out their larger thesis, that told us that okay, you know what, all of our advertising spend also needs to be much more focused, much more targeted. I think that's when we kind of make our marketing more sharp. And there are dozens of more lessons. And I've realized that when I start putting these into perspective, and I don't get to do that very often, but when we're sitting right now and I'm kind of making a note like I did a few weeks back, you realize that, wow, all of these activities resulted in maybe a 10% decline in my CAC, maybe 3% increase in my ARPU, maybe 5% increase in enterprise value across this 1 year. And wow, like this equates to much more money for myself as a founder and for all my stakeholders as combined to what I might have invested in these companies. And I think, and I love kind of you design your program around operator angels, because I think operator angels get to learn so much more. And it's not just about kind of giving out advice in those limited ways.
And mostly, I mean, look, I've that's almost my job now. I speak to a lot of operator angels, and the number one I would say benefit they get out of investing is that they get to learn a lot. And Akshay, maybe let's talk about few of your portfolio companies. You've done about again 27, 30. Maybe we can pick one or two. How did the deal came to you? What was your thesis around investing? Maybe just paint a picture.
Okay, so zero thesis, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not a thesis-based investor. Nobody had a thesis on my business. If they had a thesis, nobody would invest in my business. I've never kind of believer in thesis. I've always invested in founders who I think are never going to give up and who are super persistent, because I think TAMs keep changing. I think theses keep changing. The insights that we can derive by what is happening in the market keep changing. Something is hot, then it becomes cold, then it becomes hot again. But I think what remains consistent is the founder. And if they're not willing to give up, if they're going to be fully focused on building a large business, if they are going to have an attitude which very explicitly talks about evolving / learning / knowing where they're wrong, and kind of having the ability to not have any ego and stand correct, and then kind of move forward on the next tangent in their journey. I think that's when these founders always win, and that's what I'm kind of looking for. I don't always get that right, but when I see somebody really persist to get time, and then they kind of break down their idea, they have clarity in terms of how they're communicating, what problem they're solving for, what obsession do they have with that space. So we spoke about that founder market fit. I think that is absolutely important. And at the end of the day, I think I feel the little success that we have had at Leverage is because we really believe in this. This really, like, for me, it's in my bloodstream. So I think any founder building for any space has to be very missionary. And I think that's super important. One example that comes to my head is we're talking about this company's Flute. And I think both of these founders, Garima and Arnav, they really, I chat with them a lot, I think almost every couple of weeks. And they really feel very passionately about the tribe, about stray dogs, about the many causes associated with it. And that comes through in their product thinking, that comes through in terms of how they want to build the company, that comes through when they think about quality before scale. And I think when you build with a heart, when you build with a mission, and you build with a very, very long lens. And this is what I want to do for the next 20, 25, 30 years. I think that's when you kind of really end up building beautiful things.
Yeah. And I think passion you can sense the passion from the other side. And Akshay, again, looks like, for you, the investment thesis is just backing the founder. It's literally the founder you pick on, and then, TAM can be changed, market can be expanded.
I've in fact, but I have in fact backed companies in the last year where I don't believe in the TAM at all. And I feel that, okay, this is a shitty market. Like, why the hell are you doing something like this? But I just believe in the founder so much. It's like, ये करके दिखाएगा या करके दिखाएगी. And I've put my money thinking that इसको समझ में आ जाएगा सही टाइम पे and they will evolve, or maybe I am wrong and this market will kind of become really big, and this person's belief in this market is like more important than kind of what my belief in this market is. So I really believe that any founder, I think a lot of wannabe founders. I was a wannabe founder for the longest time in my life. I think when they see podcasts like these, I think if they really show that persistence towards a space that they're building for, I think that just cuts through everything else.
Yeah, and Akshay, maybe let's talk about few learnings. I think you've been investing over the last 5, 6 or more years.
3 years.
3 years. And what's something now you wish you knew earlier about angel investing?
Actually, I haven't ever given this a thought, but if I can very quickly think at the top of my head, I think I really appreciate granularity in terms of how you would operate than just having a 20,000 feet view about what you want to build for, what you want to solve. When you have granularity about, okay, this is what I'm going to sell, this is how the economics are going to look, this is where I think I'm going to make my margins, I have a distinct advantage over XYZ because of these 3 reasons. And the best founders are able to communicate this very effectively in the first 5 minutes. They have like a blueprint embedded in their head, and it makes absolute sense from them. And I think, kind of repeating this word again, but I think that clarity in operating really sets the best founders apart. And I think that remains true even at the highest level. Even folks who I really kind of, I love Brian Chesky, for example. I love a lot of other founders who are able to very effectively say that I'm going to prioritize these 4 things, I'm going to deprioritize these 8 things. And the world might think that my value is going to come from these 3 out of these 8 things, but I don't care because this is my focus area. This is what I think sits right for the company. I'm gonna like really get these through before I kind of move to anything else. So I think folks who really appreciate and operate with granularity, I think that's super important. Second, we spoke briefly about this, but how do I don't need to be politically correct, but folks who I think focus more on the business than saying that the business is great. I don't know if I said it right. But
I can tell you, let me double click on that. So I get a lot of updates. I invest myself, and
of course,
and the founders who are very short with the updates, to the point, purely metrics, versus founders just not getting to the core of it. They're just talking about
more English,
the
less
opportunity.
math.
Exactly.
I think that's said.
Yeah.
I think that's well said. Yeah. I think you don't need to. Of course, everybody needs to be a storyteller, but you don't need to weave a story around your performance. You need to be very. I think there also, I will touch an interesting point there, which I very briefly mentioned. I think it's important for the founder to not have an ego. I think in that short update, if the founder is also saying that, you know what, I got these 3 things wrong and these are my mistakes. I analyze these through and through, and these are 3 ways in which you're going to improve them. That to me says way more than what your achievements are going to be, because that means that you have entered that continuous loop of learning and evolving and getting to be a better founder in a better company from the next quarter onward. I think if you show that behavior, and we know what we're talking about, but there are enough founders who don't show that behavior, who say that, you know what, everything is going well and nothing is going to break. I'm on top of the game, and you see the things that break are these scenarios.
Yeah. So back to the storytelling part of the update. Basically, that storytelling has no merit. That's what I meant.
Correct.
And Akshay, look, you've raised capital, I think around 70 mil or so, and you've been, we were talking about it. You've been very strategic about your cap table. Someone starting up, how would you advise a founder how to construct? Let's say they're raising first round of funding.
Okay, so I would, and this is all hindsight, but if I was to kind of do it again, if I was to kind of advise a founder who's raising capital for the first time in their lives, I would say only and only. So 2 things, in fact, even before I say that. Founders sometimes think that capital is a solution to a lot of problems. That is not the case. You can get so much more done in the absence of a lot of capital. A lot of founders who I have met who have raised, I've raised 70. I also hang around with people who have raised 700. And when they count their mistakes, the first mistake they count is I raised too much capital. And sometimes I think that you can get way more done with less capital than you can do with more capital. And we have seen it ourselves. We have had years where we have not been the most effective when we had a lot of cash sitting on the balance sheet. And there are years when we had like good pace growth when we had less capital sitting on the balance sheet. So you don't need to raise a lot. You need to raise only what you really need as per your business plan. Nobody tells you that you can raise less and build a better business. So I think that needs to be kind of set in gold somewhere. B, you only raise from people who are going to help you. And be very, very selective about it. Whether it is angels, whether it is institutions. If I could go back in time, I would not raise a lot of the money that we raised in the early rounds. And I would only raise from people who I knew either who were going to invest in upgrading a 20-ish something founder me back in the day, or upgrading my lens of looking at the business, and introducing me to more people, and giving us that monumental shift which kind of puts you into the next orbit. A lot of funds have done that for us. So when I very proudly talk about is Bloom Ventures, I think what they did for me is like absolutely phenomenal. They really worked with me. They invested in us building a better and better lens to kind of build out a business. And today, the kind of investors that we get on the cap table are, we are more focused on, okay, we want to enter this geography. We want to kind of get this GTM right. We believe that these are the 4 areas of focus. If we get these 2 focus areas right, we'll be able to kind of get to the next level in our journey. And that's the kind of capital hence we need at this point of time in a journey. So we got to do that. I've also seen founders who don't do that even at a series C, D, E level, and then they're kind of still in a regret mode. So it's super important that you raise capital only from people who you need. And I think the Indian markets in the last 2 to 3 years have also proven, and I think we were discussing a scenario similar to that just before this, that you can go public early. You can be a small cap stock, you can be a mid cap stock, and then you can play the rest of the journey there. We have seen examples like EaseMyTrip, IdeaForge, IndiaMart, who have proved that you don't need to unnecessarily raise a lot of capital. And you end up building a better business sometimes with the capital constraints on yourself.
So there's a scenario, Akshay. There's somebody like you who's scaled his or her company, or there's an operator who got some exit. Now they want to outside of advise only, they want to also invest. Let's break it down in few pieces. One, what kind of budget you would, let's say advise to have, for angel investments. Second piece would be, it's literally, investing is about 2 things. There's more, but majorly, one is deal. And then the third comes is the judgment. So how would you suggest somebody, how to allocate, kitna capital, how many companies they should invest in, how to create that deal?
I don't have the right framework to advise, but I'll tell you what I have done. I put 50% or more of all the savings that I've had, and I put it back into startups because that's what I understand. And I really believe that so let's look at it another way. I've never seen anything grow as much as I've seen like my own leverage stock grow. So if I had the option, I would kind of put all the capital back in leverage. Since I can't do that very often, the way our capital is, I've gone ahead and kind of put that money into other startups. And because I kind of get to learn a lot from them, because I get to kind of give back / support, all of those. But I would say any money that you put in startups, you should assume that is gone. So if you're comfortable with 50, be my guest. If you're comfortable with 10% of your savings, if you're comfortable with 25% of your savings, but you should be prepared to lose that, and you should write that off on day 0. You should not build an expectation that I will be able to get 2x, 3x, 4x from that. I think that's a very wrong expectation to have. And you don't want to be that, I wouldn't say angel investor, you don't want to be that demonic investor who sits on the founder's head and says that mera paisa wapas kab aayega, all of that bullshit, right? Because the founder is building with a very long lens. If you understand the startup game, great. If you don't understand it, don't crowd it. And only invest money that you're willing to lose. I don't invest even a single paisa from any money that I've invested. If it comes, great. If it doesn't come, that's also fine. B, I would say from a deal flow perspective, I think if you're just out there advising people with stuff that you are good at, so a lot of people who want to take my money because we have had certain experiences in scaling while lowering CAC, building out these product content community loops. So they want to talk about that. A lot of people feel that we've done well on raising capital differently. So they want to kind of take that advice. A lot of people feel that we've done well on, we've really focused on culture at the company. You see that around yourself. Culture while also scaling productivity in a very, very mathematical way. So a lot of people want to kind of take that advice. And then you offer that advice for free. And then when the opportunity comes, I've often kind of called the founder and said that we were just discussing another case like that. Hey, I'm really passionate about your space. Can I put a small check? And I think that works out beautifully. So while I think I'll go back to one of your earlier questions as well. While I don't have a thesis, there are some areas which I feel very passionately about because of my personal. We spoke about the pet care area. There is, of course, education, which I feel very, very deeply passionate about. Any kind of lower middle class upliftment, I think that's something I really kind of feel very, very passionate about. So anybody who's building for that, anybody who has a heart beating for that space and says that, you know what, I want to do well for this category of people or pets or slash energy. And I think then that's when you said, okay, you know what, I can play a role in making the world a better place by being a part of their journey, not just by investing, but maybe by spending some time that I can with them and helping them get to that next level in the journey. Because what happens oftentimes is and this has happened in my journey, and maybe I'm kind of just doing a relate from that. You might not be talking to this advisor all the time, but there's this one conversation or two conversations in a year which will just kind of change the way you're thinking about a certain business problem. We have a fintech business now which is growing very fast. It's about almost 20-25% of our overall revenues. I happen to spend time with Vijay Krishna sir on Janmashtami place. He spent about 2.5 hours with me, and I haven't spent any time with him. Maybe met him a few times on a flight or a party, but I haven't spent any quality time with him outside that across a period of 2 to 3 years that I've known him ever since he came on the cap table. But the 2.5 hours really changed how I was thinking about building out a financial services business. And or I did a 20-minute call with Binny when we kind of launched the first offline store. He was really excited. He said, okay, let's get on a call. And he made a lot of somebody who has built a massive online business. He had such pointed advice on building an offline strategy as well. And the advice kind of really stayed with me. So it's sometimes those one or two meaningful conversations which really change slash upgrade the lens with which you have been thinking about a certain strategy. And I think that can be super useful. And if I can have those value-adding conversations in the lives of companies where I'm investing, I think that's all I'm looking for.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, like how, you know, one conversation or even like one tweet, one code,
correct,
one cold DM can literally change
absolutely
the entire trajectory
of
life. With this, Akshay, we'll switch gears towards our final part. Today, so I'll send you the picture. My co-pilot, his name is Alfonso, unable to come here with me. You'll laugh when I'll share the picture, but he's the one who actually drives the last part of the
awesome
podcast. But what's your typical day like? From, starting from waking up to going to bed.
Awesome. So in two parts, because I travel for 15 days in a month, and then I don't travel 15 days a month. So on days that I'm not traveling, generally I'm a late to bed guy, so I wake up at about 8:30 a.m. I don't touch my phone for the first 30 minutes to 1 hour. I exercise for about an hour, which I've just started to do in the last 6, and then I kind of start to see my emails and get ready for work, and then I end up at work at about 11:30 a.m. and then I'm in office for the next foreseeable 12-14 hours, and then I leave office at about midnight. 12:31 a.m. because I get to do a lot of my work, the stuff that you want to kind of do alone by yourself for the last 3-4 hours in a business, and go back home, read a book, listen to a pod / catch up on some interesting startup article, and then kind of sleep by 2:33 a.m. So pretty boring, but in that day also I kind of try to divide my time. When I'm at least in office, I spend 70-80% of my time just different team members. I'll show you this Excel sheet where we've I run a team called, there's an A team of people who are my direct reports, there's an A2 team, there's an A3 team. So I try to strategically spend time with people across all layers in a certain month, give them my time. So we'll do a lunch today, dinner tomorrow, spend time on some matrices, spend time on their challenges, do some problem solving. I try to spend at least 2 or 3 days when I'm sitting on the floor. One day I'm making calls, one day I'm with the customer support team, another day I'm kind of with some other part of the business which is aligning to the North metric of the company. So I think that really ensures that I'm there, like I'm exist on the floor. I'm kind of doing real business building alongside them. For the other 15 days when I'm traveling, this completely reverses. So I sleep by about 10:30 a.m. I wake up at about 6:30 a.m. And because the first meeting is generally always at about 7:30, 8, because folks in the UK or US or wherever else I'm traveling, they kind of tend to start early. And you also, because it's a more external facing day, you also want to kind of get a lot done because before evening kind of comes in, because people outside India like to meet as early as possible as compared to as late as possible in India. So you do a lot of meetings, do your emails in between, and kind of try to close off your day by 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m., do a leash dinner, and then kind of crash by 10.
Yeah.
I'm trying to exercise while I travel, which is
Yeah.
something that you advised me on. So I'm going to keep you posted on that.
So I want to double click on that, and seems like you're pretty, excited and obsessed about health. What's your relationship with health?
Beginner.
But I can see the improvement and the obsession. Like, we had a long conversation around health. So what's your relationship with health, and has it helped you professionally and personally in a good way?
I think the relationship with health, largely in my case, fortunately, unfortunately, came from work, where I realized that if I need to run a longer race, if I need to be in a marathon, I need to be taking care of myself. And that's when I kind of started working on reducing weight over last year, where I reduced from 97 kg all the way to about 81 kg, and realized that, okay, I don't want to have sugar. I want to cut out alcohol. I want to focus on having my meals early. And I think that made me so much more that just kind of ensured that I can think more clearly about problems. I can think more clearly about personal stuff as well. And today I'm at a place where I very actively think about, we spoke about that joke in between as well, where somebody told me that if you want to raise more money, which is only going to come from US here onward if you're not going IPO in India, that's going to come from fit people who want to invest in fit people. Because if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of your money? Because founders are, I would say, wealth managers in disguise. They're taking care of somebody's money and supposed to grow them. And I think today where I stand, I think I'm at a place where I definitely want to also have more colleagues focus on fitness, emulate different aspects of fitness, and see how they can also kind of embed that healthy lifestyle into their productivity routines. And we obsess about productivity very, very deeply at Leverage. So if I can kind of build a correlation in 2024-25 between people taking care of their health and their productivity at work, and seeing that productivity kind of align with the North metrics, I think that will be fantastic. So that's what I kind of want to do for the next 12 to 18 months at Leverage.
Yeah. And seems like, it's clearly working for you. You're, high energy, thinking clearly, and productivity level is going. Maybe we can seek inspiration from Dippy of Zomato. And he has and as we were talking, he's hired a chief fitness officer.
Oh, that's fantastic.
and Akshay,
next time you're coming to my office, you should come on a Saturday where we do this event called Thank Audit Saturday, where we celebrate the winners of that week. And 50% of all winners dance, and the remaining 50% do push-ups. So a lot of people who are winning awards, they already kind of start preparing their reps. Like Abhi, I've done 3.6 crores in revenue. I'll be asked to do 36 push-ups, and we have people doing Superman push-ups and all of that fad now. So I think we're on the right path in terms of telling people that you achieve both your business goals as well as your fitness goals. And I think you spoke about DP. His Instagram posts around comparing his stats around different tests that he has taken, triglycerides and cholesterol and everything else. I think I followed that, and I've been comparing that on an every 2 months level. So hopefully trying to get there as well.
Yeah, no, I saw that. You're pretty at it. I showed me on your phone. And Akshay, what are you most obsessed about outside of work?
Limited things, but deeply care about taking care of the family. Very grateful to parents and family, and whenever I can kind of take out time, I do very small pocket-sized 24-hour, 48-hour holidays. In my everyday, I have a weekend marriage. My wife is in a different town, I'm in a different town. So we try and as much time as we can together on the 3 or 4 days that we get in a month. I am massively, obsessively in love with my German Shepherd son, Buzo. So I try and spend time with him every morning. I take him on a walk. That's part of my routine. I try to spend half an hour with him, then I kind of head back at home. So that's part of my routine as well. And I've just started to learn squash, which I shared with you. And outside that, I think we try to have a lot of fun time between our leadership. We try to kind of go and catch a movie together once every month. We try and kind of go for a meal. So the top leadership, the top 6-7 people who kind of work together, there's a great relationship, and we kind of try to keep building it forward and forward. So I think in some sense, my best friends have become the people I work with, and then we kind of try to do fun things together. We will have that one long night once in a month where we kind of really party and like that.
Yeah. So dead or alive, any 3 people you could invite for dinner, who would they be and why?
Wow, should have thought about this. Okay, I can exclude people who have already had dinner with, who are on my list. Big fan of Abraham Lincoln. Read three thick books dedicated on his life and learned a lot from him, and learned a lot about American politics, which I'm a big fan of. When you will get out of this room, you will see this big Teddy Roosevelt quote on our walls, which has been on every single one of our walls about the man in the arena, which really kind of tugs at my heart. So Abraham Lincoln is going to be one. The most famous book being A Tale of Rivals. Second will be Brian Chesky, who by far is, I think, my favorite founder. I've just learned so much from him. The way he talks about his mission, the way he breaks down problems, the way he cares about his people, the way he cares about people he's serving. In fact, our first ever deck when we were raising angel capital, when we were trying to raise 1.5 crores in 2017, said that we are Airbnb of careers. So we had like the Airbnb logo. It's like we have mentors on one side, students on one side, everybody's gonna get mentored, get elevated in life. I've been really inspired by Airbnb in my journey, and so that's one. And so Abraham Lincoln, Brian Chesky, and who should the third one be? The third one should be, of course, our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi. I think his charisma, his ability to communicate with people across lines, be it to heads of states, in a very different way than any leader ever has before in our country's history. And say that, like, this is us, this is what we demand. In fact, I had the opportunity of being in a room with the US ambassador 4 days back, and they were like, we are very honest, we have never seen India actually demand things that, okay, you know what, we are disabled, we want at least, otherwise we are not. So nobody has seen India like that before. The ability to connect with people at that level, and the ability to also connect with the widowed woman in a village, the ability to connect with a child, and at the same time having the ability to do the granular maths that we speak about, knowing every constituency down to their vote statistics, knowing what needs to be done where. It goes back to how founder needs to look at their GTM. So he knows what his GTM strategy is going to be in every single constituency, and there are like thousands all across the country. And then, of course, like I said, just being the leader that he is and leading us from the front, I think he should be a inspiration to meet, not just for every Indian, but I think for young people across the globe. There's so much to learn from him. He's, I think, he's, I think, the most important leader of our times.
It's fascinating. Especially it'll be so cool to actually understand how he operates, how he thinks at that age.
Correct.
At that age.
And also doing yoga. And also being like so fit. And also taking care of like everything else on his plate.
And imagine how many, like every day he's making decisions that can move things.
Correct.
But it's so there's this one quote where I think you don't like the idea of having cap on how big you can dream. Where does that come from?
Wow, man, you've really kind of dug very, very deep into my psyche.
It's Alfonso.
I think that comes from where I started. I come from a small town originally. I grew up in a one-room house for the longest time. My mom and dad's biggest dream in life was that I should be able to speak English. That's why my pronunciation is still not like 100 on 100. I have learned English from Rapidex English speaking course. And my biggest dream in life when I was growing up was that I should be able to get a job that pays me 12 lakh rupees annually. And actually have this documented. When I was in class 7 or 8, I've said that, okay, I will learn these many languages. I will do this BCom, and then I will do an MBA. I will get this much in CAT, and I will then, at the end of it all, I will get 1 lakh rupees per month. And I said, okay, like I've put out a victory sign there. And over time, I've and then, of course, did multi-route things and went to business school, which I don't really recommend to people. And then started up. And then I realized that at some point of time that you are only able to get to where you think you can get. And I think even in the leverage journey, I did not really think about this till about end of year 3. I think there was some reset of sorts in the COVID era where I said that why am I thinking about this outcome where we can really kind of I don't do this for the rest of my life. I really think that when Musk finally colonizes Mars, I'm going to be sending people between Earth and Mars. I'm going to be like dreaming as big and as wild as it gets, and whatever someone might say, I'm going to like, of course, course correct them and tell them how granularly I'm going to kind of break this down into an executable plan and kind of really go out and crush. So I think it was more of a self-reflection of sorts. And over time, as I've kind of tried to say this to a lot more other founders / so many of my talented teammates, I've realized that once you break that wall, you're just able to do so much more. And I just wish this for every single person I meet, because I think this is the biggest differentiator in terms of what you're thinking in your everyday when you kind of make your annual goals, and what you can kind of really get to as you kind of get to 25, 30, 35, 40 years old.
Yeah, I think this guy, Steve Jobs, he has an interesting way of, talking about. I think in one of the interviews he said, if you look around, the things that have been built by people who are actually no smarter than you are. They're probably as smart as you are, but here we are at 1300 CR company today, and it's only going to grow moving forward for you. Thanks a lot, my man.
Thanks, Shiva.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And look forward to probably hosting you at one of our TGISs.
Yeah.
And having you do 50 pull-ups and 50 push-ups and inspire a bunch of our people.
No, let's do it. No, but it was so much fun.
Cool, yeah. No, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah,
Appreciate this so much.
Yeah.